Hello, chess fans. Today I'm gonna look at the 1886 World Chess Championship game. This is game 1 between Zukertort and Steinitz. Steinitz black pieces and white pieces is Zukertort. The winner of this game is Steinitz, and the location was in USA. 1886 is the year of the first World Chess Championship. So, without further ado, let's go to the game. So this is the game. It's the opening is Slav defense. The first move is d4. Zukertort, and Steinitz's reply was d5. So started with the c4 there, trying to maybe do the queen's gambit, sacrifice the pawn in order to provide control of the center. So black declined the gambit. White then proceeded with a3 to support the c4 pawn and open the light square bishop. Black's light square bishop is pretty strong in that position. It's a wide open diagonal. So white replies with knight c3. Personally, on my I would tend to counter black's bishop with my bishop at d3, but that's just me. Then black replies with a6, opening his dark square bishop, threatening a pin maybe at b4. White just continues to develop his pieces with the knight f3. Black counters with knight d7. The idea, I think, for that move was to counteract white's threat of his knight going to e5. So that pawn move looks like it's trying to prevent a pin of his queen knight. So Steinitz just chooses to bring out his bishop and to control that open diagonal. An interesting move by Zukertort there. So Steinitz just maintains control of that open diagonal. Zukertort is starting to push his pawns on the queen side. Interesting counterplay by Steinitz on the center. So the um, basic idea for attack is that when your opponent is attacking you on one side, either queen side or king side on the side, on the wing, this is met by a center play. So this is demonstrated here by Steinitz by playing pawn to e5 with a center counterplay against Zukertort's wing pawn moves. White's bishop gets out. Black's king knight gets out as well. So the bishop at b2, it's, I think it's trying to maintain the control of the center diagonal as well as to support the center pawn attack by Steinitz. So Steinitz continues to push his e5 e pawn, neglecting the pawn exchange at d4. Threatens to capture the knight while opening the dark square bishop's diagonal. So the knight retreats. Interesting move. Next is hmm, the knight move is, I think the Steinitz plan was to reroute the queen's knight to the to attack on the king side. So Zukertort continues his attack on the queen side. Okay, so yeah, threatening that knight, threatening to go to h4 to capture the pawn at g2, which is undefended at this point. Now, castling for white is um, I would say not good idea, because all blacks officers are attacking on the side where uh, where white's castling is to take place. So I think that's the reason why Zukertort did not choose to castle on the king side. So continues his attack on the queen side. So as planned, threatens the g2 pawn. Hmm. G2 to g3. It threatens the to capture the knight. However, the f3 square becomes weak. So Steinitz continues g2 with a check. King moves. I think this is the crucial part of the game, which in this case Steinitz chooses to capture the e3 pawn in exchanging his knight for two pawns. And as we will later see in the game, the uh, the trade will be worth it. So white captures. Steinitz takes his second pawn. Threatens to capture the dark square bishop, and as well open up the f file. So retreats, black retreats, maintaining the open diagonal. Steinitz has an opportunity for a battery by placing his queen to d6. Battery with the bishop. Hmm. Queen to g1. I was thinking about this move. Personally, I could have. Personally, I would move my queen to e1 to protect the threat by Steinitz battery of his queen on d6. And this move also puts white's king and queen in the same file, which would then be a great opportunity for black's rook to check and then capture the queen afterwards. So right there is threatening to check on g6, rook to g6. So Zukertort avoids that by placing his king on f1. Black continues to threaten the queen and also get control the G file. Hmm. That queen move is forced as there is no other square to put his queen to. Okay. So Steinitz positions a battery with his bishop, threatening to capture the pawn on h3. Now, white has difficulty of defending that h3 pawn at this point. So we'll check out white's reply. Captures the pawn. Natural capture, recapture by black. And gives up support of the h3 pawn and trades his rook. So Steinitz replies with a check. And king move. Beautiful knight attack by Steinitz. exchange pieces there. Okay, now at this point Steinitz has control of the diagonals, so his two bishops are have the control of many diagonals here on white's king side. Meanwhile, Zukertort's two knights are, they can't really uh, they can't really go to action here because of the center pawn there. So those center pawns are putting a lot of pressure on the the white's two knights as well as on the queen. So the knight is trying to offer support there on the king side. Okay, Steinitz breaks the battery with some ideas for his queen to attack. Yeah, let's see the reply. Attacking the rook. Interesting move. Now the rook to f6 would have been an interesting move in order to pin Zukertort's knight, but I think the idea here is to free up the way to get the pawns moving, the pawns at g7 and f7. So defensive move, trying to prevent the pin of the knight there with the king. So yeah, pawn moves threatening the knight as well as attacking. Knight retreats. So Steinitz controls the f file there while threatening the queen. Not really, not a there's not really much that the queen can do here or can move. Kind of force moves for the queen. Nice attack by Steinitz rook. So at this point the e3 pawn can only be defended by the knight. So as expected, the white defends his e3 pawn. Oh, another brilliant move there by Steinitz. maintaining the B file and controlling the B file, because there is no way for the um, white rooks to exchange with the rook there at b8. King moves in support of the a3 pawn. Amazing move, amazing pawn move. Look at that. Those pawns are just continuous, no break in the way. All out attack of Steinitz king pawns. Pawn move on the queen side there, as expected, putting pressure on the e3 pawn. Now the exchange here, if white captures the pawn at f4, it will just be overwhelming attack if black recaptures the pawn, because the pawn will have a threat at e3, with the two pawns virtually in the white's territory on the center. Not really much to do for here for white. So now, at this point, Steinitz prepositions a battery. So after he captures the pawn at e3, he's gonna have a queen rook battery on the f file. Rook to e1 with the idea of protecting the e3 square. So Steinitz proceeds with the capture. So now, black recaptures. So now at this point, the battery by Steinitz is now open. So proceeds with threatening the queen. So at this point, not really. There's not much positions for white's queen to move. He can move at g1 without being captured. However, if white moves his queen to g1, it would be met by Steinitz with queen to f3, threatening the capture of the knight there that is pinned on the king, the knight at a2. So okay, so decides to capture the rook. So at this point there, at this point, this is really a hopeless position for white. As you can see, black Steinitz has control of the open file there, or p file, and um, his pawns on the king side are pretty much positioned with no resistance on the king side for promotion, and not to mention the material advantage at this point. So captures the bishop there. Check. So now starts to attack the king. King moves. He recaptures. And desperate move. Desperate move. No. Beautiful pawn push there. So bishop retreats. Threatening a check on e4. King moves. Steinitz moves his king to allow the rook to move on the king side. Check. Another check, and a good hiding place for black's king. I have no idea of why Zukertort takes that pawn. I mean, it's too early for a sacrifice. It's not yet. There's no immediate threat. So does a check there, threatening a knight fork to recapture the queen if Steinitz decides to capture on f1. So covers the check, and at this point Zukertort resigns and game one is won by Steinitz. So the first game is won by Steinitz. This is the very first uh, championship game in 1986. An amazing victory for Steinitz. So my overall thoughts on this game is that both players try to try to attack on on the we will see here. So this part of the early part of the game, Zukertort is seem to have the upper hand here, attacking on the queen side with the queen pawns. So with the amazing counter play here on the center by Steinitz, I think that's the overall lesson I would say for this game. So that as I mentioned early in the early part of the game, when your opponent is attacking you on the wing, uh, you you should. It's a good idea to counter the attack on the wing on the center. So that's it, guys, for today. I hope you enjoy the game one, the very first game of the chess championship in 1986, winner by Steinitz. Okay, till next time, have a nice day.